My name is Brannon Braga, Brannon Braga. I'm the director of the series and one of the executive producers.
How does one make the transition from a lot of genre television into more science factual based programming? What sort of led you in this direction at this point?
What led me in this direction was Seth MacFarlane, who's one of the executive producers, called me and said, would I be interested in working on Cosmos as in a kind of a show running capacity, and just to help guide the show along and help Anne get the scripts done. And I jumped at the chance because I was a huge fan of the original, like a lot of people. I grew up with it. It had a profound influence on me. It's one of the reasons I got into science fiction, was science and shows like Cosmos. And I just got immersed in it. When it came time to figure out who was going to direct it, there really wasn't anyone as immersed in it as me. And so I just kind of stepped into that role. In terms of the science of it, I feel like the 15 years on Star Trek that I did kind of prepared me to some degree for this. But it's daunting. I can't make stuff up. Can't get out of it so easily.
What was one of the biggest hurdles you found trying to bring this project together?
We're still pulling it together. It is incredibly ambitious. 13 episodes, thousands of visual effects shots. It was just we shot forever, all around the world. It's just unlike anything I've done. It's not something you make in a little studio, like one of the scripted shows. And it's also everything has to be impeccably accurate, down to every single visual effects shot, down to the stars being the right stars in the right place. And so it just takes it's painstaking and very cautious kind of filmmaking. That's a bad way to put it. It's just very detailed, if that answers your question. But it's just been a huge undertaking. Every episode is tackles some sort of massive subject matter, and the palette of the show is varied. I mean, we have animation, we have live action, we have visual effects, we have other kind of really interesting artists creating sections of the piece. It's a complex show with a lot of moving parts. There are no talking heads in this show, except for Neil.
How was it to see
the biggest talking head of all time?
All of the graphics have evolved and what you can make it look like now compared to what the first series looked like?
Well, it's interesting. The constant question in my mind is always, is this going to be worthy of the original? Most of the shows is different. All the topics are new, but there are some homages. There are some sequences that, like I think you can see it in the trailer. The cosmic calendar is back, where Carl Sagan would walk on the calendar, give you a sense of the age of the universe as a calendar year. And then looking at the original, it's like, well, it wasn't too bad. But how are we going to make it better? And it's a gigantic, I don't know how to say except we created a cosmic calendar in 3D, a complete 3D space cosmic calendar where we can move in any direction we want with Neil on a green screen stage. And our cosmic calendar just hopefully kind of be like, wow. And there are other things that they did, I don't think Anne would want me to talk about, that I don't think, there are some things in the show that we can't make better. Some of the stuff in the original looks pretty damn good.
Aside from the obvious technological advances that you had between the original series and now, what other kind of changes did you guys aim to make to kind of bring this series of lectures to a more modern audience than Carl Sagan's version of it?
I think the filmmaking, in terms of subject matter, science is the nature and reality hasn't changed. This is Mitchell Cannold, one of the executive producers. Reality hasn't changed, so there's nothing that you can change about the subject matter. Filmmaking has changed, and I think the the way this one is shot, if you've maybe seen the trailer, has a really kind of impressionistic feel at times. It's just very cool. It's filmmaking for a more modern audience on some levels, but at the same time, we weren't out to change the show. You know, its core principles and its core format, which is a man taking you on a journey, is there. You know, one of the things that is a little more bold and literalized is the ship of the imagination, which in the original is kind of like metaphorical. But we've made a ship, a really cool ship that actually takes you to the places he's talking about, shrinks down to microscopic levels and does all these cool things.
How has Seth MacFarlane's vision in this whole thing, collaborate with you guys? Because he's slapstick comedy, and this is completely out of his league.
No. Don't ever underestimate Seth MacFarlane. This man is a Da Vinci. Among other things, he happens to be a brilliant science geek. Annie and I, and then Neil and Brannon, had the opportunity to do this series for several other networks well known to all of us. And Ian elected to turn that down because it really wasn't an opportunity to conceive this with a kind of commitment that required to really execute it, make a worthy sequel to the original, and at the same time give us the control over the content that it needed. Seth was the champion. Seth ran into Neil originally at an event in Los Angeles and said, how can I help you? And he became our godfather, champion emissary at Fox, and since then has made an enormous contribution. Among other things, first and foremost, he introduced us to Brannon, who's infused the series with all the qualities of the work he's duly credited for. So he's been with us all the way as a godfather. Don't ever underestimate that guy.
Seth was a huge fan of the original series too. I mean, like a lot of people. So it's a dream come true for him to be involved in this. It's kind of.
I would point out that Seth has an album, if you're not familiar with this, Frank Sinatra style songs on Capitol Records that I would highly recommend you consider downloading. He's fabulous at that, and so we're grateful to him.
Brannon, can I go back to something you were talking? I mean, this is really for both of you, but you brought this up before about the number of visual effects. And when people look back at the original series, we remember some of the iconic moments, like Carl Sagan standing in the Library of Alexandria and so forth. And I can't help thinking, is the state of visual effects now such that you guys can create virtually anything you want to? So if you want to talk about it on the show, you've now got the artistic palette to be able to create the background for it?
We do. I mean, obviously, visual effects have gotten significantly better. Having said that, that Library of Alexandria sequence from back then still looks pretty good. And it's not so much at times the quality of the visual effects as the quality of the ideas being imparted. The idea of being back in a library that no longer exists, that you just didn't even know existed. To us is what's most important. Having said that, I mean, our planets are pretty awesome. Like, our planetary imagery is pretty great. We really wanted to create a feeling of being out there, like if you had a camera out by the sun, it would not be easy to photograph, and we really want to create that feeling, and you wouldn't be able to do that 30 years ago.
Now back to what you were talking about, the cosmic calendar. You said it was going to be very visually different from the original. I think Carl Sagan originally said that humanity has existed in the last 30 seconds of the cosmic calendar. Did you guys change any?
No. First of all, visually is very similar to the original. It's just we're able to depict it in a much more dynamic way. Nothing about the cosmic calendar's facts have changed, except the age of the universe has changed. Isn't that correct? You'll have to ask Neil. So we had to change one. I think it's a little older or something than they originally thought. So we did change that, but we haven't changed anything about our existence. There have been no radical new discoveries about our place in the universe in the past 30 years.
I would also add to your point that Doug Trumbull, among other pioneers, was involved in the original series, and here, under Brannon and supervision, we have Reiner Gombos, who won an Emmy for Game of Thrones, an extraordinary worldwide team of companies that are producing this. But the essence of it is like Carl achieved in the original, is this, as Brannon said, is this simple idea here, then illustrated by visual effects, if that's the right tool. Today you have an audience that's so obliterated with visual effects in a feature film context that it's always used purposefully in the series now, not for its own sake, which is
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, there's hopefully there are no gratuitous things here.
There's a lot of animation, as you'll see if you come to the panel, that team that Seth put together has executed. In certain cases, that's a better tool for storytelling, and there are 3 or 4 other tools.
That's one major change from the original, is the stories of the scientists, pioneers who helped lay the groundwork for everything we know today. The stories will all be different and follow different people. And it's being done with animation. If you want, we're showing our first trailer, had some glimpses. We're actually going to show a sequence, part of a sequence today at the panel, and we found it to be kind of a cool new addition and one of Seth's contributions to the show.
Do you guys have any particular favorite parts of the new series that we'll see when it comes out?
I do. But I can't tell you. Anne will kill me.
You're on camera.
We won't tell her.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I have a cameo.
Is it in any particular episode, though? Just a number?
5? I can't remember.
Yours?
Yeah. I play a scientist. I don't have any lines. But I just happen to resemble the actual scientist by sheer chance. Yeah, I mean, there are some awesome sequences that are really just awe-inspiring, but I can't really...
Being very coy.
Well, I'm not supposed to talk about the content of the show. I mean, I don't want to give anything. I don't want to give away any surprises, but I mean, we go to some, we go to our own. We go all over the universe and universes that are even unknown. It's pretty cool.
I hadn't thought about the question before. I'm glad you asked it. What's most favorite for me, I suppose, satisfying maybe better, is that I got to know Carl and work with him on another film, and filling those shoes, as it were, is a daunting challenge. And Neil is his own fellow, and apart from being a scientist, it was not in his background, as it wasn't in Carl's, to be the host of a television series. But Neil has found, in large part through Brannon's help and their words and Brannon's direction, his own MO, and it's fantastic.
It's a perfect combo.
It's fantastic.
It's like
it's not Carl.
It's a perfect happy meal. He's already, like, people love. We were just in the autograph line, and he's like a rock star, and of science. People think he's cool. They thank him for making science cool, which most of our minds it always has been. And so it's the perfect confluence, and he's the perfect guy for the show. It's not like there are a lot of famous, charming astrophysicists available to host the show, but he certainly.
Yeah, he tells a bad joke about that. I'm not going to say. When Carl says in the original, "Come with me," and you're taking his hand and you're entrusting him, and you're going to watch 13 hours of television. It was for a different audience in 1980 and since, and older and PBS over. Now, for a broad audience, global, and kids, for somebody to have the audacity to say, "Come with me and spend 13 hours with me on science," you better be really appealing through that screen, and that's to me the most satisfying part of this.
No, related to that, like over the last few years, you've seen kind of science, again through Dr. Tyson and other personalities, become kind of more mainstream and a lot more mainstream interest in science and space exploration. Do you think that environment that exists now made it easier to kind of get into and develop this program? And because of that, what kind of long-lasting effects do you think putting this out there and doing a remake of Dr. Sagan's versions would occur?
I don't think there was anything easy about getting the show on primetime network television.
Okay.
I just don't. There are a lot of really excellent science shows on there, on cable, largely thanks to cable. But Seth made this possible, And by the way, Fox, 1,000% behind it, you know, and National Geographic as well. So any doubt is gone. You know, the show is being made. They're seeing what it is, and hopefully, we just hope people tune in. If that line was an indication, if you can extrapolate that, it'd be great to have a science show do well in this environment. Maybe more people will make them. You know what I mean? Instead of duck hunting.
It'd be nice if smart was cool again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is. I think just this whole Comic-Con thing is an indicator that people are interested in. You know, genre television often involves science or things that are, for want of a better phrase, a little brainier or more challenging than other things. I think this is all a testament to the good aspects of our culture.
All right, we're going to switch tables now.
God, that was so pretentious.
And you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.